Are you playing lottery with your career? I'm asking this question because based on my observations of what some of us academics are doing, it much looks like playing lottery with our careers. So here's what the observation looks like. Some people land in their position, whatever that might be, graduate student, postdoc, faculty, and they start operating the way that they have operated in whatever it was that was their previous position. So as a faculty member, you might be tempted now to set yourself up in a lab and do experiments. And in fact, I heard this advice from people: treat yourself as a postdoc in your own lab. And maybe there is some merit to this. Maybe you're actually the most qualified person to do experiments in your lab when you're starting out. But what that does is that it sets people up for an expectation of themselves, namely that they operate like a postdoc in their labs and like a PI in their lab or off their lab. Now you're doing two jobs, being one person. And this is where all this stress and overwhelm and overwork results from or comes from, or that's going to be the result if you're trying to do two jobs. So what you need instead, and it doesn't matter, I gave you this example, but it doesn't matter at what stage of your career you are. You need strategy. You need to know what exactly the expectations are. So you need to know what the expectations are of the job that you're currently doing. And you need to know what the expectations are going to be for the next level. Now, as academics, we tend to be growth-oriented people, which means that we value learning and we value the mastery of skills. And we value embracing challenges and tackling them through persistence and through continued effort. But what some people do is they get to this next position and they don't embrace more growth, maybe because they think, hey, I've had so much training, I now landed in the place that I wanted to land in, and now it's just about sustaining or maintaining the status quo. This is not how this game works. I actually did that to myself, first as a postdoc, but then even in a faculty position, even though I had ongoing mentoring and I had feedback, even though I had this, and I had somebody like a mentor tell me, embrace challenges. I found myself in this trap where there was so much work to get to this point of being in a faculty position, like having landed this job, that I just wanted to be a bit comfortable for a while, right? And it was even more work when I got there. I mean, you had to set this lab up, had to build a team. And so I kind of got myself into this mental trap where I figured, well, this was your dream, right? This is what you worked for. Now be happy, like just do this thing. I can tell you that this for me is not satisfying, to just do this thing, to maintain the status quo, to, I don't know, do the same thing over and over day to day. It's not satisfying to me. So what I need in order to feel fulfilled is I need to embrace growing to a higher level. Now, what that looks like for you and me might be very different, right? What growing to the next level means for me is that I continuously stretch out of my comfort zone and I acquire new skills. Now, the skills that I desire to acquire might be different from the skills that you desire to acquire. But one thing that I will put forward there is that the skills that we need to acquire at every different stage of our careers, as undergraduate student, as graduate student, as postdoc, as faculty, are very different. And if you can get yourself excited about acquiring skills that will really promote you in your current position and can be leveraged to get you into this next position, then you're going to be much more successful than if you hold on desperately to the same type of skill acquirement that you got comfortable with in your previous career stage. So if you continue to focus acquiring technical skills, bench skills, experimental skills in a faculty position, and that really is your thing, then I don't want to completely discourage you from doing this. But know that there's a whole different, it's a whole different job. And there's a whole different skill set required for this new job. There's this whole new skill set required when you are in a faculty position. And if you can find, you actually have to find motivation to embrace these type of skills and put effort into those and to put time into those in order to be successful. So to not play lottery with your career, you have to have strategy. Now, what people do too is like they pull out the faculty handbook, as you should, when you get to this next stage, or there's typically an equivalent for graduate students and postdocs. You pull this out and you want to see what the metrics are that we have agreed upon, or that your university and departments have agreed upon as metrics for success. There's an important thing, though, that you have to take into consideration. 2 rules. Number 1, you don't have to deliver on all success metrics at the same time. That is why you need strategy. So you have to lay out a strategy. For example, in a tenure track position in the US, right? You have typically 5 or 6 years, in some places 10, to deliver on all these success metrics that are outlined there. So typically there are like 3 pillars: teaching, scholarship, and service. Now, what I see some people do, and I have fallen into this trap, like after my first year annual review with my department chair, I didn't get the highest scores in some categories. And in fact, in one area, I got well, kind of mediocre score. I'm kind of like an A-level game player, so I don't like to have like average scores, right? I think that's still a remnant of my school education, like high scores. Anyways, that made me fall into this trap of trying to deliver on the metrics of success, on scholarship, right? Publications, grant funding, service. Well, have to do some bunch of stuff for the department or the university or whatever. Teaching, or how can I do this? Like, how can I just check off these boxes? Now, whenever I do this, and I've observed this in clients and colleagues, whenever we do this, where we just focus on checking the boxes, our lives become kind of sucky because we feel driven by obligation, but not really by our passion, right? So you want to step back and develop a strategy. Remember, rule number 1, you don't have to all do it at the same time. So lay out the plan. So my plan was as follows. Year 1, collect data to support a strong grant proposal. Year 2, write grant applications. Then funding rolled in at the end of year 2, focus on research. Year 3, you know, we really drove the research program forward, such that projects, research, and team development, actually, such that projects got to a place where I don't have to stand behind people and guide them every single day, right? They can drive their own research projects. They have very nice momentum. Year 4, teaching. Year 1 and 2, almost no service, except the ones that I felt really strongly about, like being on certain search committees. Year 3, almost no service. Year 4, a little bit more service, but in alignment with missions that I feel strongly about. And so this got me to a point where I did very well on my first official tenure kind of midpoint review thingy. And that was without killing myself and without doing all these things at the same time. So make sure you know what the metrics are so that you can develop a strategy. Then make sure you're not looking at metrics only. You're actually thinking about your mission and your purpose and what you feel strongly about, and then align opportunities in a way that are in line or that fall into this area that you feel strongly about. And you can, I promise you, you can hit on every one of these areas by doing it in this way. So what I feel strongly about is empowering scientists, bringing about a shift in culture, educating our trainees in a way that empowers them to do science in an impactful, creative, innovative way without falling into this trap of like declining physical and mental health that I see some of our students falling into. And I hate it. It breaks my heart, right? I want to get to a point where every graduate student who starts out with this level of excitement and enthusiasm maintains that throughout their training, into their postdocs, into their faculty positions. I think that is what we need to do more impactful work, to convince the public that what we do is of value. So that is what I feel strongly about. Now, I aligned my teaching to this. I'm actually teaching a course that helps students to professionally develop. And so I just slipped what I feel strongly about and the techniques that I feel will support students in that into this course. That is how I align teaching. I align service with that, in that I do these same things for new faculty at the institution that I'm working at. And for my research program, I most definitely included that. So my lab and I meet every month for a whole day to talk about how we can support each other and how we can empower each other to get to the next level. So you need to bring what's really driving you into the work that you're doing every single day. And you have to dismiss this idea that they are just sucky parts like service or sucky parts like teaching or whatever it might be that you find sucky and that you didn't get in here for, right? And do it in a way that is in alignment with who you are and what you want to create. And do it with strategy. You don't have to do it all at the same time. So what is impactful to you does not have to be the same thing that is put forward by colleagues or by our funding agencies. What you find impactful can be of impact internally or externally. It might be of value to our society. It might be of value to our community, or it might just be of value to you. And that is perfectly fine. So to focus on the metrics, like on papers and grants without putting this impact, that thing that you feel strongly about behind it, is like telling a business that their purpose is to make money. To make money for business is not the purpose, it's the outcome of doing whatever they decided they are about. The purpose of making money is not a strategy, right? It's wishful thinking. And if you have no plan of how to get there, you won't get there, right? You need a plan of getting to your goal. And that is what strategy is all about. Now, these metrics that we use to measure success in science, those are the outcomes that you hit upon when you live into your purpose. They are the results. They are not the why, not your reason for doing the work. It's very important to distinguish those two, because I can promise you that if you only focus on these outcomes, paper and funding, your life is going to feel empty at some point. Does not matter where you are right now. I've seen that again, and I played that game myself. As a postdoc, that is what I started focusing on. I was told, hey, you should get a paper every year. I got so worried about that it stifled me, it paralyzed me, right? I distinctly remember a day where I was laying in bed, like stiff like this, and thinking about the research that I was doing that I felt strongly about. Like, I love the cell biology stuff, right? And it interests me just because I find it fascinating. And what triggered the paralysis was that my mentor asked, well, what's the health impact of this? Is there anything that you can find in the literature that would connect this to a disease or whatever? And I couldn't find that. And it terrified me. I'm like, I do stuff that is of no value. No, it does not matter if there's health impact to the work that you're doing. I mean, if that is, and if that's your driver, that's great, but that doesn't have to be your driver. So don't just focus on the outcomes. They come automatically if you focus on doing impactful work and you're keeping an eye on delivering this work in the format that we as a community value and measure. So to approach science as, oh, I'm just going to do this and see how it pans out, is not going to work very well. That's like playing the lottery with your career. The truth of the matter is, though, if you're unfulfilled, you won't do your best work. But if you do your best, your most courageous, your most impactful work, then everyone wins, right? But if you don't, if you do your incremental whatever just because you want to stay in your safe place and you don't want to like put yourself out there and you don't want to think so deeply because you're just delivering on routines, maintaining the status quo, the NIH is screwed, right? This is what happened to me during my postdoc. I almost dropped out of science because what was presented to me as values to embrace was not aligned with what I felt about deeply. Once I realigned that, once I did the work that I felt about deeply and made sure it got published and made sure it got funded, then things started flowing, and that is when I started feeling really happy in academia and made this decision to continue that work. So, be courageous, think about, spend the time and do the effort of sitting down, going deeply, figure out what it is that you are about, then look at what the success metrics are that at your stage of your career you have to deliver on, and then make a plan. How are you going to get from where you are right now to having accomplished these success metrics that are put out there for you while doing your best, your most impactful, your most exciting work? So if you find this useful, please like the video and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, or join our Facebook community, Team Leadership and Research. In this community, we support each other to change the culture in academia from overwhelm and anxiety-ridden and running in the rat race to a culture that is supporting and nurturing innovation, creativity in a healthy and balanced fashion. Join us there. We're having great discussions, And I'm looking forward to see you again. Bye.